Laba Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravarachari. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Nam Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Uditayet Nashtaprayeshva Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Srinvata Swakatha Krishna Punyasravana Kirtanaha Hridayantastu Ayabhadrani Vidhanote Suritsatam. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, good morning. We are continuing our discussions from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, the creation of the fourth order, Chapter 3, talks between Lord Shiva and Sati. We'll do verse 1 and 2. Text 1. Maitreya uvacha sada vidvisatorevam kalo vaidhriyamanoya jamatu swasarusyapi sumahan atichakrame. Synonyms. Maitreya uvacha. Maitreya said, sada, constantly, with vishato, the tension, evam, kalaha, time, why, certainly, driya, manayo, continue to bear, jamatuhu, of the son-in-law, swasurasya, of the father-in-law, api, even, sumahan, a very great, atichakrame, past. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Sharanaravinda Vedanta Swami. Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Maitreya continued. In this manner, the tension between the father-in-law and son-in-law, Daksha and Lord Shiva, continued for a considerably long period. Purport. The previous chapter has already explained that Vidra questioned the sage Maitreya as to the cause of misunderstanding between Lord Shiva and Daksha. Another question is why the strife between Daksha and his son-in-law caused Sati to destroy her body. The chief reason for Sati's giving up her body was that her father Daksha began another sacrificial performance to which Lord Shiva was not invited at all. Generally, when any sacrifice is performed, although each and every sacrifice is intended to pacify the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, all the demigods, especially Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, and the other principal demigods such as Indra and Chandra are invited and they take part. It is said that unless all the demigods are present, no sacrifice is complete. But in the tension between the father-in-law and son-in-law, Daksha began another yajna performance, to which Lord Shiva was not invited. Daksha was the chief progenitor employed by Lord Brahma, and he was the son of Brahma. So he had a high position, and was also very proud. Text 2. Yadhaabhishikto dakshastu brahmana paramestina prajapatinam sarvesham adhipatyosmayo bhavat. Synonyms. Yada, when, abhishiktaha, appointed, daksha, tu, but, brahmana, by Brahma, paramestina, the supreme teacher, Prajapatinam, of the Prajapatis, Sarvesham, of all, Adhipatye, as the chief, Smayaha, puffed up, Abhavat, he became. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Sharanaravinda Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. When Lord Brahma appointed Daksha, the chief of all Prajapatis, the progenitors of population, Daksha became very much puffed up. Purport. Although he was envious and was inimical towards Lord Shiva, Daksha was appointed the chief of all Prajapatis. That was the cause of his excessive pride. When a man becomes too proud of his material positions, he can perform any disastrous act. And therefore, Daksha acted out of false prestige. That is described in this chapter. Omagyanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We are beginning a new chapter and also quite an important verse from the sadhaka stage that I'm in. So this was and like both the first verse is primarily talking about the importance of sacrificial performances and the role the demigods play, and how Daksha, because of his position, kind of became too proud and was not following even on paper ritualistic, like not kind of going into the deep of the actual purpose of the sacrificial performances, but just the external ritualistic aspects, which is mandatory as part of performing the sacrifice, which is inviting all the demigods. He was not even performing that. And then here it kind of explains why did he get to that stage. And interestingly, Srila Prabhupada starts the purport by saying, although he was envious and was inimical towards Lord Shiva, Daksha was appointed the chief of all Prajapatis. So it, like, the two words that Prabhupada kind of is covering here, but one is he always harbored kind of an inimical attitude towards Lord Shiva, and that eventually grew to envy. And even when he was actually carrying that attitude towards Lord Shiva, even with that, he was still appointed as chief of all Prajapatis. And once he was appointed as chief of all Prajapatis, then it became like an excessive pride, a deadly combination of pride and envy. Now, and then that led him to perform the disastrous act. So we'll just kind of discuss for some time on envy, and we'll see where it goes. So in one of the articles written by HG Haridhvani, monk from ISKCON Chowpatty, he describes envy as desiring to possess any object or desiring to possess an object and position that is enjoyed by someone else. So which is, for example, somebody is somebody has a much better house and then is enjoying is in a much higher, better position than where I am, and then my desire to possess that object and position enjoyed by that person, when I'm actively working on towards that, plotting some way on kind of how do I achieve that, with the ill intention of not just acquiring that object, but also with the ill intention of actually dragging that person down, that is what is described as envy. And we see that based on what Prabhupada is writing here, and also based on the Puranic story of Lord Shiva's wedding with Mother Sati, we understand that Daksha's envy towards Lord Shiva is actually not new. The verse also acknowledges that after being appointed as chief of all Prajapatis, his pride increased. He became very much puffed, and which is also the same thing that Prabhupada is also saying. But we understand that even before, like from a story standpoint, Lord Shiva and Daksha, both of them being sons of Lord Brahma, are in some ways to be considered as brothers. But Lord Shiva, which actually Srila Prabhupada kind of goes in later purports in detail on what was actually the cause of Daksha's envy towards Lord Shiva, and like he kind of explains in detail. But in short, Lord Shiva, because of the stature that he was in and because of the personality that he is, anywhere that he was walking in, he was always respected just because of his much more qualifications. And that the sheer amount of respect and admiration that Lord Shiva was commanding, he was not demanding from anybody. It was just his sheer presence was kind of commanding that high level of respect. And that became the initial cause of Daksha's envy. And interestingly, if you kind of drill down deep into this definition of desiring to possess the object and position enjoyed by somebody as the definition of envy, we see that it sounds very similar to insecurity. So in Daksha's case also, like consider, like there are no actual stories to this, but kind of consider this. You consider me and somebody whom I equate on my own level because of brothers or god brothers or god sister. I consider, oh, I am also, I came into Krishna consciousness on the same day. We both walked into the Krishna consciousness to an ISKCON temple on the same day. And then later, after 5-10 years, when we walk into an assembly of devotees, let's consider most of the devotees or everybody who is in that assembly of devotees are kind of respecting him, are glorifying him. Then it seems it is but natural that I'll have that insecurity. And it seems that Daksha's envy towards Lord Shiva also stemmed from his insecurity of seeing the reverence that Lord Shiva was commanding anywhere he went. And the only difference between insecurity and envy, as per the definition, is insecurity starts as a self-centered fear of inadequacy, of, oh, this person has something, I don't have it. So it's that fear of what I think in the modern words, we call it as FOMO, fear of missing out. And that insecurity stems from that fear of inadequacy, where in that article, Rajberi Prabhu also writes that in some ways, insecurity also stems from the attachment to the material designations, that we create. Oh, I'm so and so, but he is so and so. So I'm not I'm have some things which are inadequate compared to the level that the other person is. But that is one thing. But the primary difference between insecurity and envy is insecurity is a passive state of envy, where you are kind of still internally debating on you're kind of surrounded by this fear of inadequacy, but you're not actively plotting like what we do in envy. For example, let's consider some of us being, like most of us, all of us being in the community of, not just in the community of devotees, but also in the broader social community that we live in. We do see there are a lot of people, a lot of friends are actually excelling in certain aspects of life, which is just an aspiration for me. One of the small aspirations that I have is to kind of learn Sanskrit, but like there's not much effort that I'm putting in, but it's just an aspiration. But when I see some devotees who are excelling in that language, in the art form of speaking in Sanskrit, understanding Sanskrit, feels, oh, I might carry that insecurity towards that person just because of the sheer capability of what that person has, without understanding, though there might be some other things that I'm actually much also blessed in, which kind of gives me that ability to excel in that, but without understanding the deeper aspect of what what is the level of service that I could perform. If I'm just focusing on the excellence that other person is carrying, then I might carry insecurity. And if it is not dealt, it starts as insecurity. And if it is not dealt, and eventually, just by the sheer luck or just by the coincidence, if I happen to gain a position of influence, then that insecurity, like in the case of Daksha, he was always harboring insecurity, and he tried his best to also not let his daughter get married to Lord Shiva. But once he gained the position of the chief of Prajapatis, then that envy kind of started becoming that envy. Now he also has a position, and he is expecting, he was in some ways, he was just seeing the external aspects of, Lord Shiva being one of the commanding predominating deity of one of the modes of nature, is given that respect. And now me, as Daksha, who is the chief of all Prajapatis, I should also be given the same, if not more respect, at least the same amount of respect wherever I walk in. But that was not happening, and that because just the sheer position and the influence that he was carrying, combined with that envious attitude that he was harboring towards Lord Shiva, and then with the combination of excessive pride, eventually led him to perform that terrible act of which eventually led to the death of his own daughter, which is not something that as any father would kind of wishes to kind of even imagine. But what happened that is it started as an insecurity, and that was never he never worked upon it. And then that is in the combination of a huge position of influence, then we actively start to plot, okay, now what do I do? Is there something that I can use my position to make sure that devotee will not kind of get a platform of actually rendering his services with the excellence that he has. And those things, like Daksha, then first he made sure that he called Lord Shiva to the sacrificial performance, but then he was and when he was walking into the sacrificial arena, everybody else, and because of that insecurity that is combined with envy, then he was like, everybody else is standing up, and I am Daksha, the chief of all Prajapatis. Why are you not standing up? And why is it that when you walk in, everybody, like it's kind of a huge web of thoughts that kind of just trigger, and it kind of caused into this active resentment towards Lord Shiva. Now, interestingly, in the same canto, followed by the story of Daksha, there is one more personality whose beginning seems to be the same as Lord Shiva. We are talking about Dhruva Maharaj, who comes after this entire story of Daksha Prajapati and Mother Sati and Lord Shiva. Then it follows with the story of Dhruva Maharaj. And based on the definition of envy, what we have read, desiring to possess the object and position enjoyed by someone, just based on that, if you see, Dhruva Maharaj approached Lord Shiva, Dhruva Maharaj approached Lord Vishnu without getting into, for the lack of time, without getting into the entire story. He approached Lord Vishnu because he desired to possess kingdom that is greater than his father. Fits exactly into this definition of desiring to possess the object and position enjoyed by someone. Oh, my father is this king, and Surichi, my stepmother, said, I'm not qualified to sit on his lap. Now let me achieve something which is far beyond what he is enjoying, which he possesses, and the position that he's enjoying, and let me kind of go further. It started same way as for Daksha, as we just discussed. It started with insecurity. He felt he is inadequate, or Surichi made him feel inadequate for what he is, for just being as a son. You don't need anything else more than just being a son to receive love of your parent. But Suruchi in this case makes him feel inadequate that, oh, just being the son of Uttanapad is not sufficient. You have to be my son. And Uttama, because he is my son, is qualified to sit on his father's lap. And now, because you are not my son, and if you want to actually sit on that lap, then you have to again perform the austerities, again take birth in my womb, from my womb, and then you can do that. But the only difference, at this time, it was still in the passive state and centered, as we are just discussing, on the feeling of inadequacy. But in that situation, that's where the origin point of insecurities is similar to Daksha Prajapati and Dhruva Maharaj. But the direction and the journey that they have followed is completely different because of the wise guidance and instructions that Dhruva Maharaj has received from his mother Suniti, and then eventually from Narada Muni. When he felt that, Dhruva Maharaj first approached his mother. And it was not that he was thinking of going to his mother and complaining. In fact, Srimad Bhagavatam says that whatever has happened was actually not even narrated by Dhruva Maharaj, was narrated by the courtiers who happened to actually see when Mother Suniti saw Dhruva Maharaj crying. Then she asked him, and he's in such pain that he cannot explain what happened. And then all the other court members explain, and that's when Mother Sunita then kind of gives him the guidance and all of that. Even though that is so, the journey was very different, and through the process of actually moving forward, like Dhruva Maharaj went into the forest, performed the austerities to please Lord Vishnu, and as he was also doing that, he was still performing the process of devotional service with that aim. Like, I want to take darshan of Lord Vishnu and then gain this item which is kind of making me inadequate. But the process of devotional service, because he was performing it under the guidance of Mother Suniti and Narada Muni, and he was exactly following what Narada Muni was saying, and he was even honest when Narada Muni was kind of talking. But because he performed the devotional service under the guidance, proper guidance, and following the instructions, he eventually, the desire, when the Lord Krishnagarbha appeared, he goes on to say that rather than actually aiming for the diamond, I was actually aiming for these broken pieces of glasses, and I don't need broken pieces of glasses. Even the Daksha externally was also worshipping Lord Vishnu, Lord Narayan, like one of the tribes that he kind of keeps fighting with. Lord Shiva is like, Lord Narayan is ultimate, and I don't need to worship you. So externally, Daksha was also worshipping Lord Narayan, and Dhruva Maharaj was also worshipping Lord Narayan. But the result on their heart was entirely different because of the sheer of the humility, but that each of them were carrying of being an humble servant of the spiritual masters and following their instructions. And in fact, when Dhruva Maharaj actually comes back, and now even though the origin of the point was insecurity, and then under the guidance, their directions moved. And if we kind of want to see what happened when both of them actually achieved a position of influence, Dhruva Maharaj, once he came back from the forest, he was made as a prince regent, and then eventually became the emperor of the entire world. But we see in the heart of Dhruva Maharaj, it's not that he was, till the time he became the king, he was just harboring these ill intentions. Oh, just a prince, my father is still the king, so I cannot do anything to my stepmother and my stepbrother, so just let me become the king, and once I become the king, then I can do something. But Bhagavatam actually explains it, what happened in an entirely, what happened was exactly opposite of what could have happened if not for the guidance and the change of heart. Dhruva Maharaj, when he came back from the forest after the darshan of Krishnagarbha, not only did he have any trace of anger or envy towards Surichi and Uttama, in fact, he actually goes on to wage war against Yakshas just because Yakshas have killed his brother Uttama. And like Lord Brahma Swayambhu, Manu, all of them had to come and explain to Dhruva Maharaj that please stop this war. Yakshas are an important part of the entire creation, and you cannot just wipe out the entire race of Yakshas just because they killed your brother. They, like, such highly elevated personalities had to come and kind of console him, because the grief that he was carrying for the death of his brother was so much that kind of goes on to show that all he had in his heart was love towards Mother Surichi and Uttama, like not even a trace of envy or anger towards that. Daksha also had access to Narada Muni and to the process of devotional service. And externally, he was also performing the same ritualistic ceremonies of Trisandhya and performing the austerities, yajnas, and all of that. But there was no transformation in his heart, and which we kind of see from the story, at least till this point. Eventually, it does happen, but at least till this point, there is no transformation in his heart. He continued to harbor this insecurity, and once he had the actual position of influence, that insecurity turned into an active expression of envy. I'll end with this. There is actually a saying in Telugu which says, I don't know how many of us are from Telugu here, but one of the saying in Telugu is, Anni unna aaku manigi unte emi leni aaku egiri padutundi, which means that so traditionally we always used to eat in leaf plates, and after you are seated in the rows where you are waiting for the prasad to be served, the biggest problem used to be that the leaf used to fly away, and we always had to kind of stop the leaf from flying out. So this proverb basically says that a leaf plate which is empty keeps flying around, but a leaf plate which is full of prasadam, which is served by the full prasadam, does not even move around. So similarly, a person whose heart is full with humility, like Dhruva Maharaj, Mother Suniti, they're always kind of calm, like Lord Shiva, they remain stable. And even when there was so much of chaos that we have learned in the previous chapter, when there was so much of chaos that was, there was curses that was flying from one side to the other, Lord Shiva does not speak anything, and he just, in the morose mode, he just walks away. So Lord Shiva, Dhruva Maharaj remains stable, but an empty person, not that we are offending Daksha, but just from the story standpoint, who's a personality whose heart is full of insecurity and envy, and it's just the shallow heart that gets created because of the insecurity and envy, expresses it by proclaiming their superiority. Because that humility does not kind of keep you stable, then it kind of, such a personality like an empty leaf plate kind of keeps jumping around. So yeah, there is a lot to kind of go further into this, but the primary lesson that both Daksha and Dhruva Maharaj are kind of teaching us is, as long as we continue to remain humble servants of each other, helping one another to overcome. Mother Suniti was helping Dhruva Maharaj, and eventually Dhruva Maharaj kind of is, when it was time for him to leave, the first thing that he asked is, oh, what was my mother? He was always ready to render service to one another, helping one another. Oh, like it feels but natural that in the position that we are in, we do feel insecurities, and then kind of creating that environment of where we are comfortable enough to share our insecurities with the close friends that we have, and kind of speaking, and how do we kind of become much better. And as long as we are kind of remaining in that humble mood of serving each other, helping one another to overcome our insecurities, and then not just insecurities, we are also blessed with a lot of gifts. Each of us are blessed also with a lot of gifts, and then sharing those gifts for the greater service. Maybe there are certain things which I am very insecure about, but some of my friends are blessed with in that aspect, and kind of just discussing with them, and then them sharing their gifts of wisdom. Oh, this is something that I've learned and whatnot. And as long as we are able to do that, we will always be blessed to follow in the footsteps of Dhruva Maharaj, and ultimately be under the shelter of Shri Radha Shyam Sundar. So I'll end it here. If there are any corrections or comments? If not, we can end the day. Yeah, we'll end it. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo Santapati Vaishnava.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, wonderful
Hare Krishna.
class. The comparison you brought up between Dhrumaraj and the Daksha story is very